Boom, we are live. Whoop, let me get this off. Here we go. Hi, everyone. We are live. Following the Miami Dolphins dominating, convincing 34-10 victory against the New York Jets, which is how it's supposed to look when you're playing a crappy team, especially one that's injured. And spoiler alert, the New York Jets are a crappy team that had to use a quarterback that they just signed to the active roster on Saturday, minus Garrett Wilson, who's their best wide receiver. And then minus, obviously, the guys they traded on defense. But the Dolphins took care of their business. That game was over in the first quarter when the Dolphins jumped out to a 21-0 lead. And to discuss all of this, what it means potentially, Dolphins are back in the hunt. The NFL Today graphic did not have them in the hunt before the day started. It did after the game. So to discuss all of this, Dante Collinelli, deputy editor for Miami Dolphins on SI, joins me. Dante, what'd you make of this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it was funny. We joked about Brady Cook possibly playing on the preview show that we did on Friday, and he ended up into the game, and he was exactly as bad as I think you and I kind of expected he would, and that's not really fair to Brady Cook. I mean, terrible situation for him. But as for the Dolphins, I mean, ran the hell out of the football, played really good defense, weren't really challenged on defense, if we're being completely honest. I mean, the Dolphins had as many interceptions as the Jets had catches at one point in this game. So not a ton of challenge, but defense played well. They showed up. They did their job. That's all you can ask them to do. That's awesome. And then you ran the hell out of the ball on the other side. Just complete domination by the offensive line up front. Those guys were absolutely phenomenal. Early in the game, when the team was still on the script, the passing game was just sending the linebackers in 6 different directions and just dunking the ball over their head, a bunch of easy completions and big yards after the catch. It looked great. And then, things kind of trailed off for the passing game at least, and they got back to running the ball late in the game. But this is the formula for Miami. This is a defensive and running team. I've been saying it for a really long time, and this might have been the best proof of concept that we've gotten, or at least the most extreme proof of concept that we've gotten in a minute. So good win overall, not perfect, not always pretty, but a win's a win. They're 6-7. Colts lost Daniel Jones today. That might be one less team you got to mess around with in the AFC.
And their schedule,
we'll see.
Their schedule's a complete bear on top of everything else. They have 4 games left. They're all tough, and now they don't have Daniel Jones, and they were on the downward slide to begin with. Yeah. If you read Miami Dolphins on SI.com, where all the content is free, and Dante and I produce a lot of it, you would have read my story earlier this week. As you mentioned, the formula and the 2 key metrics, if you want to look at 2 key stat indicators that will tell you if the Dolphins are going to have success, 30 or more rushing attempts. They had that today, and then 2 takeaways at least. And they had that today. And what do you know? With that formula now, I think they're 5-0 this season, or maybe, they're 5-0 this season, I believe, when they have that formula. And before we go back to the game even more in depth, and we will, as we always do, attack the viewer comment in the chat, I don't know, in about 20 minutes or so, or after we've done sharing whatever pieces of wisdom that we might share, which probably won't take very long. We don't have that much wisdom. Mike McDaniel said after the game, Devon Achane could have returned to action against the Jets had he been needed. He wasn't. It made perfect sense to keep him out. Indicated there are no fractures involved in the ribs. It's funny too, because if you see the replay, the first thing he does is he looks to me like he's grabbing his right knee. So it was weird, and I tweeted that, and then immediately they announced it's a rib injury. So I don't think I'm totally crazy to suggest I saw that. Then again, it's for other people to tell me that. So that's obviously very, very good news. And then the other piece of information I want to throw out there, the Dolphins also lost 2 special teams player, Caleb Johnson and Elijah Campbell, during the game. Jalen Waddle went to the sideline looking at the back of his leg, talking to trainers. He went back in, so no issues there. Important fact, the Dolphins play the Pittsburgh Steelers, who did defeat the Baltimore Ravens 27-22, in large part to an absolutely atrocious overturn of a touchdown catch by Isaiah Likely. Watch the replay. Tell me I'm crazy. And then
it's got 4 steps before the ball comes out.
We have to do what a marathon? I mean,
what is a catch? No idea. I have no idea.
And this is one of the many, many reasons I despise instant replay. Number one, because it disrupts the flow of the game. To land at a call that's probably bad. And this one, there wasn't even a challenge. It was the automatic booth threw on a touchdown, then they overturned it. I have no idea. Anyway, but the thing I wanted to mention about this game is Baltimore rushed for 212 yards against the Steelers defense, who the Dolphins face next week. And then last week, the Steelers were gashed for 250 yards by the Buffalo Bills.
There you go. Bills just ran duo, too. They didn't do anything fancy. The Dolphins do all this fancy stuff with the run game. Bills just got under center, ran the ball right ahead, and the Steelers couldn't stop them. So, I mean, that'll be big next week. Dolphins are certainly capable of replicating that formula.
Correct. So this is why this notion of if ever there was a time that to me I was sold on the idea of maybe the Dolphins can make this a longer run than they're at 4 straight wins now. I needed to see a dominating performance against a bad team. In New Orleans, I know defeated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're plucky and all that, but they're still 3-10. And the Washington Commanders, when you face them, minus Jaden Daniels, minus Terry McLaurin, and minus Daron Payne, that's a bad team, and you have to do better than win 16-13 in overtime. I'm sorry. To convince anybody that you could make a run. Now the game against the Jets today, you were playing a crappy team with injuries. You spanked them the way you're supposed to spank them, other than the punt return for a touchdown, which you and I had discussed. Isaiah Williams is somebody Dolphins are going to have to be concerned with, and there it went.
There you go. Best offense of the day for the Jets. Pretty
much. And another part of it too is we talk about Brady Cook and how much he struggled. He also should have had a touchdown pass when he hit John Mechie in the flat with Dolphin linebackers way behind, and he completely flubbed it. So
the Jets must have had 10 drops in this game. It felt like, I don't know what the exact number is, but it felt like at least 10. It's probably like 7, but man, so many drops in this game.
Yeah, and including from Mason Taylor, son of Dolphin Hall of Famer Jason Taylor, had himself a pretty rough first half. That Tyrell Dodson pick, props for using every part of his body to make that interception, but that's should have been a catch. I'm sure you spotted our friend Jonas Savaianaya getting some kudos from the CBS announcers. So you starting to warm up a little bit to our friend Jonah?
Well, if you've been reading the weekly stock report on Miami Dolphins on SI, which you can go read right now, and we'll have that ready for you on Tuesday morning, you know I've been warming up to Jonah for a couple weeks now. He's been playing better. He really has. And based on the film that we saw on the broadcast today, this probably looked like his most complete performance of the year. You know, the past couple weeks, it's been good, but right? This week, it might just be good. There might not be a but, and that would be really good. He was getting up to the second level, sealing blocks, looked really solid. The Dolphins' pass game is not really conducive to properly evaluating pass protection, at least in my opinion, but I didn't tag him with a ton of pressures off the eye test today, or maybe any, frankly. I think most of what the Jets were able to generate off pressures came from stunts and blitzes and different things like that. You know, Jonah has had a really tough time winning one-on-one in pass protection. I didn't see any lapses in that today off the broadcast. So looked like his best performance of the year. We'll see if the tape has to say tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, he's been getting better consistently every week for about the past month and a half, roughly. And it's really nice to see it culminate in a performance where the broadcast is actually right to shout him out, because I feel like a couple weeks ago they were like, oh, look at all these great blocks by Jonah, and they just weren't there. But this week I thought he was actually doing some good stuff, and it was good to see him get that recognition. That's why you stick with young players, why everybody wanted him benched and this, that, and the other thing. You got to let these guys ride it out, man. Sometimes they just need a little bit of time. And look, he's still got improvements to make. He's not perfect, not a finished product. It's a couple week run against, frankly, some not very good competition, but it's a good start. It's a building block. It's progress. That's all you can ask for from these young players, especially at this point in the season. Yeah, and it's also not like they had a Hall of Famer or a Pro Bowl player waiting in the wings, ready to step into the starting lineup if the Dolphins were going to sit down. So might as well, and it worked. The entire offensive line to me looked very good. There were a couple of false starts, which you don't like to see, but overall, I mean, the movement they were creating up front, and in the second half, it seemed like there was a point mid to late third quarter on, it was like Jalen Wright would carry the ball, and there was 7 yards, 9 yards, 7 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards. I mean, consistently, and not a whole lot of broken tackles. I mean, he was doing a good job of hitting the hole, but I mean, the holes were there. Yeah, I mean, I'm really curious to see what the yards before contact numbers look like this week, because I mean, every time you saw a play, it's like the offensive line was like 3 yards down the field. And it wasn't because they were pulling out into space, because they were blocking people off the line of scrimmage and climbing up on the linebackers and pushing them 7 yards down the field. And a bunch of Jalen Wright runs were just like 8 yards untouched. And then he got touched and ended up being a 12-yard run. It's like, all right, great. I got 8 yards before contact, 4 yards after contact. I think I tweeted it around the time that you're talking about. It's like, I wouldn't call a pass for the rest of the game. I'd run the ball every play. And that's basically what they did. I think they called one pass the rest of the way after that last scoring drive. So like, I mean, it was great. The offensive line was awesome. They were mauling people. They were getting out into space. Assignment sound. The Jets' run defense is not a serious group of people. It is what it is. But they traded Quinn Williams, pretty much the only person holding that unit together. They might have the worst linebackers in the sport right now. Those guys are terrible. Dolphins took advantage, though. That's all you can do. And they kicked their butt. That's what they're supposed to do. It was an awesome performance.
No, correct. And now they've gone through this easy stretch of their schedule. Now they go to a stretch that's going to be a lot tougher. They play the Pittsburgh Steelers, who lead the AFC North now with a 7-6 record. They play the Cincinnati Bengals. The question with the Bengals is they're always dangerous because of their offense. But today they lost against the Buffalo Bills 39-34. In part because Josh Allen decided to be ridiculous Josh Allen, and also in part because Joe Burrow had 2 passes deflected at the line of scrimmage that turned into interceptions, including one for a game-turning pick 6. They're now 4-9. If they are still fighting to the end, it's a dangerous team no matter when. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are now tied for the NFC South lead after losing to the New Orleans Saints today. That's week 17. And then the New England Patriots, who may need the game to hold off the Bills for the AFC East title, depending on how things go. For those wondering, the Bills face the Patriots next week. If New England wins, they clinch the AFC East title because they'll be 3 up with 3 left, having swept the Bills. So that would take care of that. If not, New England can still win with wins against the Jets and the Dolphins at the end of the season. This is assuming Buffalo goes on a run and doesn't lose either. So,
yeah. The other thing with New England too, they can get the 1 seed as well.
Correct.
Even if they lose to Buffalo, they're not out for the 1 seed. So I would be pretty surprised if they don't have something to play for in week 18. The Dolphins are going to have to play a team that has something to play for.
Correct. So, and we mentioned all of this because, again, the Dolphins are in the conversation. It's still a very long shot because the Dolphins put themselves in such a hole. And the biggest issue is they have so many teams to jump over. Now with, they also lose in a couple of tiebreaker situations. Right now, they're tied with the Baltimore. Who would have thunk it? They're tied with the Ravens at 6-7, except the Ravens beat them. Ravens beat them. If Houston beats Kansas City on Sunday night, then they're tied with the Chiefs. Those 2 teams haven't played. And then, but
that's a tough draw for Miami because they have to jump Houston and Kansas City. Right, because Houston's not in the division lead. The Texans are climbing, right? Like they're in that hunt if the Texans win. So like, I don't even know who you root for in that game. You're kind of beat either way. Either Kansas City gets a game on you or Houston gets a game on you. It's tough, man. They got a lot of teams climbing over. AFC competitive conference this year. They do,
because if you look at it, New England, Buffalo are more than likely going to get in. You're going to have your AFC North champ. You're going to have your AFC South champ. I'm thinking right now it's going to wind up being Jacksonville. Then you're going to have Denver. That's 5. That means there are 2 spots left, and then you have to figure in the Chargers, the Chiefs, Houston, Indy, Baltimore. So yeah, this is the situation the Dolphins have put themselves in. I will say this: this is not going to please some certain Dolphin fans, but the more wins the Dolphins stack up, the greater the chances are of Mike McDaniel coming back in 2026 for those who are not happy about this. That's just a fact of life because right now the Dolphins have won 4 in a row, and right now they're looking like a playoff caliber team.
Yeah, I mean, it just is what it is. I think you and I said this, throughout the year, as much as I probably would have made a change if I was the owner earlier in the year. I kind of understand where this team is at and what the actual owner of the team wants. And his is the only opinion that matters at the end of the day. And so he clearly is going to give Mike every opportunity in the world to get it figured out. And as you so correctly put it, they're figuring it out right now. 4 in a row, 6-7. They've completely changed the formula. I think I have some qualms about how repeatable it's going to be against better football teams, but right now it's working for you. You're kicking butt in the trenches. The defense has gotten a lot better. And you know what? McDaniel deserves credit for that. He really does. He deserves some credit. Did it take too long? Probably, but he got there and they're competing. They didn't quit on him. That says something. And I think, I would put it at better than likely Mike is coming back next year as the head coach.
I would too. And the big question, obviously, the big switch occurred starting with the Week 8 game against the Atlanta Falcons after the Dolphins were embarrassed in Cleveland. And part of it was it wasn't working. The other part of it is Darren Waller was joining Tyreek Hill on injured reserve, and all of a sudden you don't have that many great options in the passing game. And now we're at a point where the passing game is what could be holding this team back. Tua was really, really sharp, and he looked sharp. Forget all the numbers and the results, but he looked more decisive, changing the arm angle on a completion to Greg Dulcich. First quarter was great, and then that went way down. And as always with the passing game, it's not just Tua. Just like I said in 2022, it's not just Tua when the numbers are great. It's not just him either when it's bad, but he was off target. There was some miscommunications and misconnections. And believe after starting 8 for 8, he was 5 for 13 the rest of the way for 26 yards. That's not going to get it done if you got a game where your rushing game is not getting 200 yards.
Yeah, I mean, the second that the Dolphins got off the opening script, I mean, Tua just torpedoed. I thought he looked terrible. Really slow decision maker, inaccurate in the middle of the field. I don't know why we're throwing the ball at Jalen Wright, who's not even looking at you in the first place. Why? Just eat it. Just go down. Just fall down, fall to the ground, or throw it over his head out of bounds. You have two options. Neither of them lead to a potential backwards pass. And then you're going through your progressions at the goal line, and you just lazily lob a pass out to your outlet to Jalen Wright, and it's almost pick six at the goal line. And so I wrote this last week in our film review that we did following last week's game. Like, I'm more concerned than I've ever been about Tua and the passing game. I think the past really 3 weeks have not been good. I think I put this in our recap that's up on the site now, is since the Buffalo game, I don't think that the Tua tape's been good. Even against Washington, I didn't think he played particularly well in that game either. So I'm fairly concerned about that unit as a whole, but as you put it as well, it's not just Tua. There are other problems. The Dolphins do not have a single reliable receiver outside of Jalen Waddle. I like Greg Dulcich, but you're throwing him screens and you're going play action and you're running slides to the flat. Dulcich is not going out there lining up out wide, cooking a receiver and press and winning downfield, right? There's a difference between a player that you scheme up some targeted plays for and player who actually goes out there and wins reps for you. The Dolphins only have one of those players right now. It's Jalen Waddle, and is putting a significant cap on what Tua can do, what McDaniel can call, and what the passing game is capable of. So there's a lot of issues outside of Tua, but I think the Dolphins have done a nice job of finding a way to make the offense good while also having these limitations. And look, that's just kind of where they're at. I know that this team is, was never as bad as 1-6 probably, but they were 1-6, and there's a reason for that. And you're starting to see, this team is imperfect. They have flaws that right now they're doing a really good job masking them and overcoming them. And they're going to get a tougher test against the Steelers next week. We'll see if it continues, but the passing game is a problem. They're going to get into a position over the next 4 weeks where they're not running the ball dominantly and they need to throw the ball to win the game. And right now, I don't know how much faith I have in them to do that.
And one continuing problem on offense as well is third down, where they sucked again today. I think it was 2 for 12. That's been an issue, and it went downhill gradually ever since Tyreek Hill was on IR, because Tyreek Hill could get open very easily on a 3rd and 6, even if it wasn't the big explosive plays we saw in 2022 and 2023. I do want to point out something that in the first half I thought was massively cool. They had when on the play where Waddle gained the 39 yards. No, that was 21 yards. Full house backfield, fake the handoff, and then Waddle on the reverse. Oh man, I love that play call. That play design. Yeah. Love that.
The run designs are cooking, man. McDaniel's in it. He's got a lot of different formations, and it's really cool because, again, it goes back to the tenets of this offense is the illusion of complexity, right? Like it looks complicated, but at the end of the day, it's usually just outside zone or crack toss. It's nothing crazy. Like they're not doing anything like terribly innovative, but they make it so hard for the defense to figure out what direction the ball is going, who's getting the football, what, like all those different things. And if you get a chance to watch the tape from this game in the first quarter, just watch the Jets linebackers. Those guys had no idea where the ball was going. They needed a map, man. And that play that you brought up was a perfect example. They were running 5 yards in the opposite direction, and Jalen Waddle was 10 yards downfield by the time they figured it out. So that's the formula for the Dolphins. It's misdirection, changing things up, different backfield alignments, 6 offensive linemen, multiple running backs, all that stuff. That's how they're going to generate those explosives. And yeah, I mean, it's been really fun to watch. I've had a joy watching it.
No, those are great plays. Also, big props to the Jets for a very cool play design on the fake punt, even though they caught a break because the pitch was short and it took a very nice hop into the hands of Malachi Moore. Otherwise, that thing bounces to the side one way or the other, and it's a turnover on downs.
You know what? For me, that's a rule of cool. You call speed option on a fake punt, you got it, man. You deserve to get the first down. I'm fine with that. That was a sick play call as well. That special teams coordinator for the Jets he's doing a great job.
No, without question. But going back, as we mentioned earlier, the Dolphin passing game is going to have to pick it up. The Jets do not have a single interception on the season. They had their chances. They had their hands on a couple of them in this game, and we saw why they don't have a single interception on the season.
I thought Tua was trying to throw him the ball at a couple points. I mean, got away with a couple.
Yeah, and the CBS crew wound up putting out a stats, which was the first time the Dolphins scored 21 points in a first quarter since 2015 against Houston, for those not familiar with that game. And here comes our flash history lesson. That was Dan Campbell's home debut as interim head coach, if you recall. And the Dolphins led 41-0 at the half. That's the craziest half I've ever seen, covering in all my years covering the Dolphins, and there have been a lot of them. They had 4 touchdowns of more than 50 yards in that half, including like an 80-yard touchdown by Lamar Miller. Jarvis Landry had 1 or 2. Rashard Matthews had 1 also. And the Dolphins, the final score, if you remember that day, was 44-26. You would think like, oh, high scoring, but semi close. Yeah, no, it was 41-0 at that. And this game, after Dan Campbell's overall debut as interim head coach, where they went to Tennessee with a 1-3 record, and they won 38-17 with Cam Wade getting like 4 sacks. Rashad Jones had a pick 6, and they just completely spanked the Titans. So there's your quick history. On that note, any other thoughts on the game before we turn it over to the chat?
I don't think so. I mean, really good Rasul Douglas game. I feel like that deserves some push as well. He had the interception. ESPN box score had him with 5 pass breakups at one point. Those things are not always the most reliable, but even if the number is 4, heck, even if it's 3, great game. He was all over the place, super sticky in coverage. I think he had a couple tackles out on the perimeter as well that were good. So, I mean, he's been great. I think, you had mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I think you entertain maybe bringing him back next year on a short-term deal, another one-year deal. If he doesn't feel like he can cash in even more, I think you at least entertain it because cornerback room's not overly strong. So good to see him show out. And I mean, defensively just weren't challenged, but did your job across the board. We'll see what it looks like against a better team next week. Yeah,
and you saw a nice contrast, or bad contrast, however you want to describe it, between a savvy vet and a young, very eager guy who wants to make plays in that sequence, in about a 5-play sequence. The first one was the 39-yard DPI against Minkah Fitzpatrick after Jack Jones got caught peeking into the backfield, kind of made a little lunge forward, and boom, the wide receiver sprints right by him. And then the difference is Mechie tried the same thing, like a stutter and go against Rasul Douglas, who never even flinched for a millisecond, whereas as Mechie was making his move, was right there for the easy pick, which is, again, difference between
what did you think of the DPI call? Do you think it was a good call? I don't know. He was like a little early.
I was waiting for a better angle. It didn't necessarily stand out to me as a good call. I know some Dolphin fans were pissed at the block in the back against Jalen Waddle on the Greg Dulcich catch and run to the 1 yard line. And my point on that was it wasn't nearly as egregious as the low block they called on the Jets defender who was diving. Well, he was diving at Greg Dulcich, the guy with the ball. He was allowed to do that. That was a ridiculous call there. The problem with Jalen Waddle, the contact didn't appear to be egregious, except he's blocking him away from the play in his back. And it from the official's angle, it probably looked a lot worse than it actually was. That's one of those that's going to get called pretty often. But to your point, I didn't think it was necessarily a clear cut call. Maybe the officials were trying to make it a game at that point, even though it wasn't going to happen. It really wasn't going to happen. Okay, so let's tackle these comments, folks. Got a bit over 400 folks joining us, and I haven't done so yet. I'm remiss. Bad Alain. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Check out the website, please, MiamiDolphinsOnSide.com. All free content. Mandalorian here with the Welsh Pounds donation. Thank you very much, sir. Great win, but why do we keep going off the boil on offense? If Wales qualifies to the playoffs, they will play Canada in the World Cup. How about that? Canada back in the World Cup for the third time. They've yet to win a game. They could just win a game. That'd be nice. Why do they keep going off the boil on offense? It's a very good question. Because I think, and they wound up with a series after they took the 21-0 lead. If memory serves, they were like 4 straight 3-and-outs. And there were a lot more throws than runs in those sequences. And it's absolutely fair to question why you wouldn't just stick with the running game there.
Yeah, I think it's tough because I think you have a situation in which, like, running the ball, you're going to go through like small lulls where you don't get it going. Right. So that's going to happen from time to time. I think what the Dolphins do, right, is they have all these runs built into their script, their opening script. And what we've seen the past couple of weeks is those opening scripts have been very good. And then when they get off the opening script and it's a bit more McDaniel having to make decisions in the moment, and so far as pass versus run, I think he wants to try to get Tua into the game early. So he tries to like throw him into the game a bit and get him into rhythm. Tua hasn't been able to find that rhythm consistently outside the opening script. And so that's led to some clunkiness. And then, then you get back to running the ball because eventually you're just like, okay, well, the passing game isn't working. We're just going to go run. And now you're seeing the success that comes with that. But running the game, or the running game in general, is streaky. Like the Dolphins ran for 250 something yards or whatever it ended up being in this game. 230 something, right? And like they went a pretty long portion of this game without a first down. There were significant stretches where it was just 3-and-out. Like the entire third quarter was just punts. And after they went up 21-0, it was just a lot of punts. And they still got to 200 plus yards rushing. So that's kind of the nature of the beast. And also I think a product of trying to get Tua into a rhythm because he's so much better when he is just in a rhythm, on time, all those different things. And I think it's very easy to do that on an opening script and a little bit harder when you have to call those plays on the fly.
Yep. No, I hear you. That makes Noel's asking here. Noel, thank you very much, buddy. Noel's one of our regulars. We love Noel. Noel, when was the last time Dolphins had 3 different running backs rush for a touchdown? Seems pretty rare. I looked it up here. Didn't I get my answer? I have the game book of the Denver game. I don't know if we had 3 of them. No. Dolphins had 5 rushing touchdowns that day, but it was 2 by HN and 3 by Mostert. So I don't know. Maybe in the 70s, Zonka kicking Mercury Morris. It would involve some research. No, when I get the chance, I'll try to look it up just for you.
How about that?
Right? Mall Security with a $10 donation. Thank you very much, sir. Credit to McDaniels for keeping his team checked in and motivated where other teams might have quit. But please stop throwing that outside wide receiver screen. Please. Thanks for the streams. I will pass your message along to Mike. I am not a huge fan of those either, but it's been kind of a steady ingredient of the diet steady meal in the diet the past couple of years, if we're going to be honest about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a product of the limitations in the passing game. You don't have anyone who can get open downfield except for Jalen Waddle. and occasionally Darren Waller when he's on the field. How else are you going to get Malik Washington the football? Got their wide receiver screen. It's tough. It's tough when you don't have the options to actually win downfield. Would I prefer for them to throw it less? Yeah, absolutely. But I do think it's just a product of the limitations that they have right now.
But I do think Darren Waller can get open downfield. And by the way, he looked very, very good carrying the ball in that rushing attempt he had. He looked very natural. He reminded me, you know who he reminded me of? But that's going to be before your time. That's going to be way before your time, Dante. But for the older folks out here, and I want to hear in the comments if anybody recognizes the reference. It was a Chargers tight end who became an H-back who was an oversized dude. His name was Rod Bernstein. That's who Darren Waller reminded me of, like a 6'6" guy carrying the ball. Dolphin 02, thank you very much for the donation. Dante, your point further portrays to his limits. Yep.
Yeah. He's not always been this limited, though. I do want to say that. He is typically better than the way that he's played this year. This is an especially down year for him. I do want to make that distinction. Yes, he's always been limited, but not quite this limited, at least in my opinion.
No, without question. Capstern Dave, thank you very much for the donation, sir. Can it be McDaniel thinks they know he's running and he can't believe in just bully anyway? All the linemen suck, but he needs to learn to bully sometimes. Part of it, I think, is also he's got 3 running backs now on the game day roster, so he can rotate them. I think part of it is when HN is the one in there, he doesn't necessarily want to overuse him. But yeah, it's almost, if they're not going to show you they're able to stop the run, why would you possibly stop doing it?
Yeah, it seems like he's learning, right? We're getting to the point where hopefully it's not an issue because I don't know, the last 15 plays, 14 of them were probably runs off the top of my head. So he's getting there, right? We're making progress. Now, should it have taken 4 years? No, but we got here. We'll see where it carries him.
We shall. That's funny. David Pridham says, sure didn't look like Chuck Muncie. Chuck Muncie was also a bigger back. Wasn't 6'6" like Darren Waller. No B1, 6'7" week is going to be tough to endure. Got my son close to me here who's going to love this. 6'7", 6'7".
Oh, man.
Ryan says McDaniel shouldn't come back if they finish at 6-11, which is very much possible with their remaining schedule. I would be floored if they finished 6-11. I think they have 4 games left now at 6-7. I think a conservative estimate is they go at least 2-2, and which would put them at 8-9, right back where they were last year.
Yeah, man, that would be really frustrating. Just all of this stuff just to be 8-9 again. That's tough, man. That's tough.
Yeah. Yep. David Pridham says Dolphins need 10-7 and a 3 or 4 way tie and some conference tiebreakers. I don't think if you're 10-7, I don't think you're going to need tiebreakers to get into the playoffs. Again, you got a lot of teams, got a lot of teams that are in there right now who could wind up losing games. Houston 75.
I think there's going to be multiple 10-7 teams
that will have, with one of them being left out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's possible for sure. It's definitely possible.
Anything's possible. There was a comment made on the broadcast today. It was like, oh my, are you serious? What did they say? You have to find a way to get first downs and sustain drives. And I'm thinking,
oh, it was coming out of the halftime break. The play-by-play guy was like, how do the Jets get things going? And the analyst was like, they got to sustain drives and get first downs. It's I hadn't thought of that personally.
I know it's a very good strategy.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong. Definitely not. Ryan W. McDaniel. No, we just got that one here. Oh, I'm going to do it. Dr. DC Smith, McDaniel going back to the run might save his job. The saying, what usually gets you hired gets you fired. What got him hired is part of it was he convinced the Dolphins that he could get the most out of Tua. That was the part of it. And right now, That's not going particularly well, but he came to the Dolphins with a reputation as a run game genius or savant, whatever term you want to use. And we've got to this point, and it may be that Tyreek Hill's injury was a blessing in disguise, because this is the formula that's a lot more sustainable to win in the playoffs, because you have to run the ball and be physical in the playoffs, especially if you do not have a ridiculous quarterback who can basically win you games single-handedly. And obviously that's hyperbole, but you know what I'm saying, like Josh Allen has done. And for those who are going to go there, yes, I'm a big fan of Josh Allen. And if you didn't see the numbers or some of the highlights from his game against Cincinnati today, tell me you wouldn't take him on the team right now.
I mean, is that even a question? Or are there really people denying that? I mean,
no, there are people denying who say I have to stop this love affair I have with Josh Allen. Sorry if I think the guy's a complete stud. Sorry. Joshua Sexton says, after watching Tua, even during the first quarter, he doesn't seem to torque with his middle. His feet are never really set properly. Is he hurt? That's a great question. He's not on the injury report, other than those couple of weeks where he had the thumb issue and he still had the hip issue, which means he's not missing rep, which means he's not getting treatment. Is he 100% physically, or have there been residual consequences to all the hits he's taken and the hip? I don't think it's far-fetched to suggest that. But you're right. A lot of times he's not setting his feet, and when he doesn't set his feet, this is where the lack of arm strength really shows.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been a mechanical nightmare. I think it's something that we've talked about on this show since week 1 when they lost to the Colts. It's just been really out of sorts for him. I think even the limited arm strength that he's had, I think, has regressed. I mean, he just, he used to at least be able to like drive the ball within like 10 yards. Like if he really had to fit like a short area tight window, like he was capable of doing that. Like right now, he's not. Like it's like the ball, every pass just it floats. Every pass is just like it floats way more than before. And so it's tough because you already had a player who was severely limited. And now you have that player regressing physically. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if it's, it honestly might just be the fact that he's gotten hurt so many times that he's just wearing down a little bit sooner than another quarterback. Maybe it's just a 1-year thing. Maybe he needs a different offseason plan. I have no idea. But what we're getting right now is worse than what he had last year. And that's saying something, because I don't think anyone who properly evaluates the quarterback position would tell you that Tua is a traitsy player. And so he's going to have to step up at some point this year. There is going to be a team that figures out how to stop the running game. I don't know that I'm overly confident that he's going to get the job done. It hasn't looked good for a while.
No, we certainly haven't seen the signs. And the problem, the issue is the arm regression, if we want to call it that, puts even more of a burden on the timing being on point and your wide receivers getting open and getting to where the spots they're supposed to be. And this is where the fact that he's got no prior experience with Nick Westbrook-Akine, for one. He doesn't with Darren Waller either. He does a little bit with Malik Washington. He doesn't with Taj Washington. D. Eskridge didn't play a ton last year, so there's not anybody with whom he's got a great rapport other than Jalen Waddle, and we kind of see what we see. Mall Security again, thank you, sir. Is it hard to judge this game past quarter one? First quarter game felt mostly over before the half, which is a nice feeling in this moment. It's a little bit hard to judge because the Dolphins came out offensively brilliantly, touchdowns on their first 3 drives, and they were facing such a challenged offense. Hell, even with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, I mean, he didn't look impressive when the very little playing time he had. And then you throw in a rookie who's making his NFL debut, who wasn't good, but all things considered, I mean, and by the way, props to Ethan Bonner for that very nice interception in the back of the end.
Yeah, I have to give props to Ethan Bonner as well, because I was kind of getting on his case because he missed 2 tackles on the punt return touchdown, and then he forgot how to run forward during Malik Washington's 1 return, and Malik Washington ran into him. Bonner shouldn't have even been there, but good for him. Great play. He got beat at the line, made up the ground, one-handed INT. Props to Ethan Bonner. I'm happy for him. He's worked hard. But is it hard to judge after quarter one? Like for me personally, yeah, it is, because I don't think you played an NFL offense today. Like, frankly, I think you have a bunch of receivers who are young and not very good and kind of inconsistent. I think AD Mitchell and John Mechie have a lot of potential. They had a ton of drops. Mason Taylor has a ton of potential, had a ton of drops. You have a quarterback back there in Brady Cook, who, all due respect, I think is a practice squad player. I don't think he's anyone who should be seeing the NFL field right now. Right. UDFA was not a highly touted prospect. I don't know what to say about the defense other than they did their job, and that's all I can ask for them. It's not like I'm saying it's a negative in any way, but I don't know how much I take away from this game personally. I don't really think you played an NFL offense in this game. They didn't get tested at all.
No, correct. The Dolphins defense is on a pretty nice run now with those last 4 wins.
They are playing great.
13 and 10 games.
Yeah, they are playing great. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. I'm just saying I don't know how much, not credit. I can give them credit. They did their job. They've been great. But I don't know how many big takeaways, right? Big picture takeaways am I going to get from this game? Small picture, though, they're playing awesome. And they're going to have to keep it up, because I don't know that this offense is going to produce, 34 points. And I don't think that's going to be I don't think they're going to score 34 points every week. So
that's their second 34-10 win of the season, by the way. Atlanta Falcons. Charlie Chance, again, thank you very much, sir, for the donation. Very much appreciated. Zonka Kicken Morris had rushing TDs in 5 different games between 72 and 73. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I didn't know the number, but I figured they would have that. I'm trying to think. Not like the Dolphins had very good running games with multiple running backs since. Again, it would require some research.
But the problem is 3, right? Because you can probably go who's the third? That's the tough one, right? Because you have the Ronnie Brown, Ricky Williams era, and that stuff is easy. It's who's the third? I don't know. We'll have to.
Patrick Cobb, maybe it could be one of those years where they had that. So, but do not know off the top of my head. Here we go. JD Palm 13. Jalen Wright was great, although I was curious why Gordon was completely absent until later in the second half. I thought he was above right on the depth chart. They've been using him differently. They've been using Gordon more so near the goal line. I think, remember, Jalen Wright had a very sluggish start to the season because he had some training camp injuries and was inactive early on. Then he was active but not playing. I think all along maybe the Dolphins felt Jalen Wright was the better of the 2 running backs, and maybe it's found its groove, so to speak, and that's why we have a little bit of a change here.
Yeah, it seems like Gordon has a specific package in the offense, and they don't really ask him to do anything outside of that package. So when you need a high volume ball carrier who needs to take the ball every play because you aren't throwing the ball for the rest of the game, basically, that's why you get to Jalen Wright. And props to Jalen Wright, made the most of his opportunity, looked great, ran behind blockers well, ran with his pads. Happy for him, man, because he's had some tough breaks since he's gotten into the league, and big win for the Dolphins because that pick, they paid a decent price to trade up for Jalen Wright. So if they can get a solid RB2 out of it, I mean, not ideal, but also not a loss either, and that would be good.
Omar, thank you very much for the donation. Mike McDaniel is not the problem. What he has done without a QB is a miracle. Do we even want to dive into this? The offense, and I said this in 2020, 22, and 2023, not on a podcast because the All Dolphins podcast started in when did it start? 23, like it did, March 2023. But even as they were going nuts in those 2 years with the passing game and all that, to me, I always thought of Tua as a facilitator, that the offense revolved around the stupid speed they had put around them with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, and then Devon Achane. But to say that he was not a functional quarterback at that time, I don't think is right. I don't think he was great last year. I think he's been extraordinarily pedestrian this year. And right now he's a game manager. He may have been a game manager in 2023, albeit an elite game manager, where now he's just a playing game manager.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think people want these things to be black and white, and I think there's a lot of gray that goes into it, right? It's like Mike McDaniel is not the problem. And it's like there are things that Mike McDaniel does very well, and I think no one's going to argue that he extracted the best out of Tua the first 2 years in this offense. He played well. He was good. He was a good NFL quarterback in 2022 and 2023. And I think, has he gotten worse in 2024? Has he gotten worse in 2025? Yeah. Does McDaniel deserve credit for scheming up what was a very efficient offense last year, if not explosive? That was kind of the big thing this offseason was, hey, we can't find explosives. And does he deserve credit for the pivot that this team has taken to the running game and the play action game to create something resembling an okay passing offense in some weeks? Yeah, he does. But, I think Mike also has a lot of weaknesses. And I think you kind of get into this situation of, is it the chicken or the egg? Is it Mike or is it Tua? It's probably both. I think both guys deserve a little bit of blame. I think some guys deserve credit. Like, right now, do I think Mike's better than Tua? Yeah, absolutely. I think Mike's scheming up a really nice running game, and I don't think Tua's playing very well. But Mike has problems. Mike is not perfect. He is not exempt from all of this, especially because he went to bat for Tua. That was his guy. He made his whole sell to be the head coach because he was going to fix Tua, and then he made a big deal about going to Chris Greer and Stephen Ross and saying Tua needs an extension. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, just completely, Mike, hands off. He got screwed. He got stuck with Tua. He stuck himself with Tua. That was his decision, 100%. So it's a little bit of both. I don't think that anyone's the problem. I think both guys have some strengths. Some guys have some weaknesses. Tua right now, the weaknesses are not outweighing the strengths that he has. He is not playing well.
No argument here. Interesting point in mall security. Tua was pretty lucky the lateral was ruled an incomplete pass on the field. That was a pretty reckless play.
Yeah.
It was pretty close because remember the rule says even if it's even, that's considered lateral.
Yep.
It has to go forward. Did it go?
It was
forward?
close. It was close. I don't know. I don't know.
If you consider also remember the circumstances of the time Jets were down to their last time out with that offense, we really think the Jets are going to get in field goal range if they have to burn their last time out, and then you run. Instead of throwing the ball where you stop the clock for them and you let them save their timeout, you run the ball, make them use their last timeout. You get them the ball back with 10 seconds left. You really think the Jets are going to get in field goal range? I didn't like the play call. It's dangerous, particularly if you're going to throw a sideways pass like that. They got lucky on that one. Yes, that was a bad call, and McDaniel was asked about it after the game, and he said Tua wasn't in sync with Jalen Wright. Well, okay, but you still
Jalen Wright didn't even know the ball was coming his way. He wasn't even facing the quarterback. So that's a good point. It's a fair point on your part for sure.
And it's one of those where maybe Tua okay, hang on to the ball. It's not there. Just take a couple of steps, get out of the tackle box, and chuck it. So, what teams need to lose? We're still number 11 in the standings, I believe. Stay tuned. I'm going to have updates on this on the website, MiamiDolphinsSI.com. Mike said the ball went forward ever so slightly with the overhead view.
I don't know. I couldn't tell either way, honestly. I really couldn't tell, especially the way that he's a lefty and his throwing motion. He kind of almost whips out a little bit. I honestly have no idea. I think that was going to be one of those, whatever the call on the field was going to be the call that stood after replay. I don't think they were changing that one way or the other.
That's a good point. But don't take any shots at lefties because
I'm a lefty.
Oh, see, there you go. Okay.
There you go. Yeah, I'm a lefty.
You had told me before and I've forgotten because okay, I want to address this one here. Will Lewis, Gordon was benched early this game due to his dancing near the goal line last game. He got benched the game due to he fumbled on his first carry this game. First of all, the carry you're talking about last game wasn't near the goal line. It was on 4th and 1 from about the 45-yard line. And second of all, no, you shouldn't be dancing around on a 4th and 1 run. But if you look at the replay, would you prefer you run straight into a wall? He wasn't getting the first down running straight ahead. He figured, let me try something. It didn't work out. No, I don't think he was benched because of that in the least. And did he fumble today?
Yeah, he did drop a handoff.
Oh, he did. Yeah.
That
I'll buy. That made Mike McDaniel. Here it comes, queasy. But the thing about the 4th down carry last week, no, sorry, not buying it. As long as Tua is a non-factor, we have a good chance of winning. LOL.
Non-factor implies
He's
not
not.
good or bad.
He doesn't have to play a determining role one way or the other.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
It's a little harsh. Scott said Tua is awful. Once he's gone, we can get it going. They went 4 in a row. I mean, so that's not.
They're good. It's as going as it's getting, right?
Yeah. For those watching at home, Dante's screen is frozen.
Oh man.
Yep. Number one Heat fan, that almost lateral play depicts exactly the weaknesses of McDaniel and Tua's decision making at times. It's a bad call. It happens. It happens. Yep, Dante's having some internet issues. It wasn't a handoff; it was a pitch inside. Yeah, now I remember. See, now I remember the play. Okay, yeah, and it was a fine pitch, and we just lost Dante. So we're about to wrap it up anyway. I'll finish by myself unless Dante reconnects, and we'll bring him back. Dr. DC Smith, the offensive line is no longer booty cheeks. Most improved unit on the team. I don't know that it was ever booty cheeks, to be honest. I think that was a narrative that wasn't necessarily supported by the facts, but it has improved. In the offensive line right now, it's playing some really, really good ball. Mike said San Francisco does the same thing. Why can't we get a better roster? You're not wrong if you're talking about like the emphasis on the running game without a marquee quarterback, without question. Mall security, this game did highlight how good Achane is. Offense didn't click nearly as much when he left. It didn't. They didn't get into the end zone, but they were churning up yardage like crazy on the ground with Jalen Wright, who finished with over 100 yards, by the way. So, no. And the differences with Achane and Jalen Wright is Achane's got the home run ability, whereas Jalen Wright doesn't necessarily have it. So, Mandalorian, maybe good tuna. Well, maybe good tuna. Maybe good tuna. I had tuna salad the other day. That's why it's on my mind. Maybe good tuna will turn up next season. Maybe that would be certainly beneficial to the Dolphins, considering it'll likely be on their roster. No, you're funny, man. That's funny. Dante needs to put another quarter in the internet timer. That is funny. Mike says need a solid rotation of running backs. Absolutely, without question. Scott, good defense, good O-line in a running game, but we can't beat good teams with Tua. Not the way he's playing right now. That level of performance is going to have to pick up without question. That cannot be denied or debated. Don Jaluha reminded of the pass that Theismann threw against the Raiders in the Super Bowl, which was another horrible play call. If you remember that game, the Super Bowl following the 1983 season, Raiders against the Washington Redskins. And I think the score may have been 14-3 Raiders at the end of the half, and the Washington is backed up deep in their end where they were smart. They would just run out the clock and go into halftime. Instead, they tried to throw a screen. Couldn't get it over the head of the linebacker, Jack Squirek. Picked it off, returned it for a touchdown. It was 21-3. And then that was the end of it. No, you're funny. No, man, no, you're funny. Do two lefts make a right? Maybe. There you go. Maybe. Dante's trying to reconnect. Dante's reconnecting for the last couple of minutes here.
We're back.
He's alive. Mike, no broken rib. They don't want to put him back in the blowout. I said that already. Mike, where you been? For those not aware of what Mike is saying, this was related to Devon Achane, of whom Mike McDaniel said there's no fracture. He could have returned to the game. It was McDaniel's decision not to put him back out there, which made perfect sense. Oh, you were responding. Okay, I'm sorry, Mike. You were responding to Ken. Ken, had you been there from the beginning of the show, shame on you. We addressed it right away. What running back is not a need next season? I do not understand what that means. Sorry.
I think running back is not a need next season would be my guess. The what might just be a typo, right? Don't need a running back.
It wouldn't be. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be. Rib injuries can sure be tricky, though. Yeah. Especially if you're a running back, chances are you're going to get a hit on the side without question.
Yeah.
Will says, you forgot Gordon is a power back. He is supposed to run the wall. Running away from a wall is just typical finesse football. I agree in theory. If it's 4th and 1, basically on a game clinching carry, you want him to continue going ahead because he's supposed to try to keep going ahead when there's absolutely zero opening there. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, would I prefer he just run straight? Probably, even if there is no opening, because like I don't know, maybe you push the pile, right? You try to bounce outside. To me, that's I don't know. It's a tough one. I agree with you though. Generally, like either way, you're probably not picking that one up.
Correct. Wells twins getting in broadcast. Imagine being a $50 million a year QB and your coach is afraid to put the ball in your hands at all. LOL. It was more prominent at the end of the first half against New Orleans, where the Dolphins just ran a couple of times and they just let that clock bleed. They were playing for a field goal. And Mike McDaniel admitted as such. What he didn't say, what I'll say for him, which I did at the time, is the way Tua was playing in the first half, he wasn't trusting him at all, which is not good again. And again, the way Tua is playing and performing is perfectly fine if it's a QB on a rookie contract or a very modest deal. When this guy is at the top of your salary cap chart, that's not good.
Yep, totally agree.
Oh, good point, Jonah. The fan base crushed Greer for laughing at our concerns about the O-line. Greer seems to be vindicated. Ooh. Knock on wood, you didn't just jinx it. I mean, it's still not a top 5 offensive line, but it's more than serviceable.
Yeah, I mean, it was better, but he laughed at it before last season.
Sure.
And the offensive line was not good last year. So I'm having a hard time vindicating Chris Greer at the time of his laugh. There's a difference. It's been a while. A lot has changed since then.
But again, and I wrote about this on the website many times too. It wasn't like Chris Greer wasn't trying to improve the offensive line. The problem is he was getting the wrong guys, either the injury-prone guys who would continue to get injured or guys who didn't pan out. And even this year, if we're going to look, what was the big move of the offseason? Signing James Daniel. Dude has played 3 snaps the entire season, and I'd be shocked if he played another one. And they're managing right now pretty well without him. And props for whoever was the deciding factor in bringing in Cole Strange, who all in all has done a pretty solid job for the Dolphins.
He's been better in recent weeks. I was not a fan of him before that, but he's getting better though. He's getting better, which is great. That's awesome. That's fair. He was on a practice squad. So, but yeah, I have a hard time vindicating Chris Greer. I think Chris Greer made some nice moves on the offensive line in recent years. Signed Aaron Brewer, drafted Patrick Paul. He deserves credit for those things. 100%. Not arguing that.
Okay. What, Noel? What's your problem, Noel? Noel's telling me to simmer down now. Simmer down. And this is a shot at me. This is big shot. Exposed still a team. No, they're not a team. In case you didn't know that. If you didn't know that, then I'll let it slide. The Montreal Expos ceased to be a team in end of 2004. So, documentary on Netflix called Who Killed the Montreal Expos, which relived basically what went down with that franchise. No Dolphins had yet, maybe 5 in a row. No. Luis is asking, Luis Felipe Benito, the rule is that the subscriber number has to go up. Tell you what, it's like a little bit 16.8, I believe is the number, or 16.2. Whenever I reach another 1,000, like we reach 17K, I'll wear a Dolphins hat. How's that? And I said before, when I reach 20,000K, it's going to be a Dolphins hat and a Dolphins jersey. Okay. And I have an aqua, so you'll know I have an aqua one and I have an orange one. Okay. Okay, there you go. I know nothing about baseball. You are forgiven then, my friend. Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up. Any final thoughts, Dante Collinelli, Deputy Editor of Miami Dolphins on SI?
No, I think we covered it. Dolphins took care of business today. Weren't challenged a ton, but they bullied the Jets, and that's what they're supposed to do, and that's all you can ask them to do. So good win all around. We'll see how they look against a Steelers team that's a little bit better. Yeah, and this was this was the game I wanted to see for the Dolphins to have some belief that maybe they can finish 9-8. I have a very difficult time envisioning them rolling out,
the end of the season. But who knows? That's why they play the games, right?
Yep. We'll see.
So, yep, we shall see. So everyone, thanks for joining us as always. Much love. There you go. Check out our written content, MiamiDolphinsNSI.com. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, like. We'll be back here on Monday. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, including the Sunday night game between the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs. I have a very hard time. If you check out the rooting guide on Miami Dolphins on MiamiDolphinsNSI.com, I kind of analyzed it a little bit. I can't even remember which one. It's not a totally clear cut. My Chiefs fatigue syndrome probably tells me go Texans, but I don't recall exactly how plays better for the Dolphins. So anyway, thanks everyone. There you go.